Bună tuturor! Bine ați venit pe canalul Poveștile Biancăi! Astăzi o să vă citesc cartea Erin, the Firebird Fairy din colecția Rainbow Magic, The Magical Animal Fairies. Să începem! Kirsty Tate held her breath, trying to keep her fingers steady on the camera, as a little brown sparrow only a few steps away pecked at something on the ground. She was so crouched at the edge of a woodland clearing, framed by leafy trees and bushes, with dappled sunlight streaming through. She pressed the button on the top of the camera. Click! There. Perfect. Brilliant, said her best friend Rachel Walker, crouching next to Kirsty. She took her pencil and ticked off the sparrow picture from a list she held on a clipboard. That makes 5 birds we found on the photograph, she said, feeling pleased. The sparrow, thrush, blackbird, robin, and magpie. Just the blue tit to spot now, and we're done. The 2 girls were spending a week of their spring holiday at an outdoors adventure camp. Today was Nature Day, and all the campers had been put in pairs and given a list of plants, animals, or insects to track down and photograph. At the end of the day, they were going to gather around the campfire and share their discoveries with everyone. Rachel and Kirsty sat on a fallen log to look at the birdwatcher's guidebook they had been given. Rachel flipped through until she found a page about the blue tit. Here we are, she said, looking at the photograph. So it's got a blue head, wings and tail, and a yellow chest. Well, that should be easy enough to spot. It says here that the blue tit is acrobatic and cheeky, and has a funny call. Tee, 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 Kirsty said, reading aloud. She put her head on one side, listening hard. I can't hear anything like that, she said after a moment. I'll have a look with these, Rachel said, picking up their binoculars and scanning the glade. She moved them around slowly, spotting clumps of primroses and nodding daffodils, but no blue tits. The only bird she could see was a robin perched on a tree stump. Rachel chuckled to herself as a joke suddenly popped into her head. What's so funny? Kirsty wanted to know. I just thought of a joke, Rachel said. Which bird steals from the rich to give to the poor? I don't know, Kirsty replied. Robin Hood, Rachel giggled. Kirsty smiled. I like that, she said. I got one too. Which bird tells the best jokes? Rachel shrugged. I give in. She answered. A comedy hen, Kirsty replied. Both girls laughed. My turn, Rachel said. Why does a hummingbird hum? I don't know, Kirsty said. Because it's forgetting the words of the song, Rachel cried, bursting out laughing. Kirsty, too, was helpless with laughter for a few minutes. Kirsty recovered herself after a while and wiped her eyes. Then she caught sight of something unusual up in the treetops. Hey, what's orange, red, and yellow and perches on a branch? I don't know, giggled Rachel, thinking it was another joke. What is orange, red, and yellow and perches on a branch? No, Kirsty said. I mean it. There's a bird up there. It is the most beautiful creature I've ever seen. Look! Rachel stared up with her binoculars. She blinked in surprise as the bird came into view. It was as big as a parrot, with a long trailing plume of orange, red, and yellow feathers that shone brightly in the sunlight, almost like fire. Wow, she breathed. What is it? Kirsty began leafing through the guidebook to see if she could find a picture that matched the unusual bird, but its pages included nothing remotely like it. And the girls were startled by a sudden peal of laughter. It didn't seem quite human somehow. What was that? Kirsty whispered, staring around. The laughter came again, and Rachel aimed her binoculars at the strange bird. To her amazement, it was tipping its head back, with its beak open, making the laughing sound. It's a bird, she said, nudging Kirsty. The bird is laughing. It must be magic. Kirsty's mouth fell open in delight as she realized something. Yes, you're right, she said, smiling. I bet it's the magic fiber from fairyland. Rachel nodded. Of course, she agreed, feeling a prickle of excitement. The missing firebird, right here in front of us. Nobody else at the holiday camp knew, but Rachel and Kirsty had a secret task to carry out that week. They were helping the fairies track down 7 missing magical animals. Jack Frost had stolen the animals, but they had all escaped from his ice castle and found their way into the human world. The magical animals were important to the fairies because they helped spread some very special qualities around, qualities such as imagination, luck, humor, and friendship. Since the animals were only young, though, they weren't quite in control of their powers yet. The magical animals fairies really had to find their charges and take them safely back to fairyland before they caused any trouble. But this hadn't been easy so far. Jack Frost had sent out his goblin servants to track down the magical animals too, because he didn't want humans or fairies to enjoy their unique gifts. Instead, he wanted everyone to be as miserable as he was. "I've just realized," Rachel said as they gazed up at the extraordinary creature. "The firebird's magical gift is humor, isn't it? That's why we've been telling jokes and laughing so much. Just being near the bird is doubling our sense of humor." "Oh, yes," Kirsty said. "I bet you're right. Well, we need to catch him and return him to fairyland before any goblins turn up and spot him. Then the joke will definitely be on them." "Let's make up a plan," Rachel said. But just as she spoke, the firebird took off in a glorious flash of color. It was a breathtaking sight. The creature flapped his striking wings, and the fiery shades shimmered in the sunshine. "Quick, let's follow him," Kirsty said, jumping onto her feet and running through the trees. Luckily, the firebird's extraordinary feathers made him easy to see, but he was fast, and the girls had to race along to keep up. Running whilst gazing up at the sky was tricky. Rachel almost tripped over some log trees' roots that were sticking out of the ground. After a few minutes, the bird landed on a rock at the other side of a shallow stream. He folded his wings around himself, staring about with bright, beady eyes. The girls didn't dare get too close in case they scared him away, so they sat down on a grassy bank of the stream and talked in quiet voices. "Maybe we could lure him across here with some food," Kirsty said thoughtfully. "But what do firebirds like to eat, I wonder?" "Firecrackers," Rachel joked. Kirsty smiled too, but then shook her head. "No, we must be serious. We'll never think of a plan if we keep making each other laugh." Rachel nodded. "Yes, you're right," she said. "Maybe..." Then she broke off as she felt a strange tingling sensation in her jeans pocket, where she had stuffed the birdwatcher's gift book. She pulled it out quickly and saw that a page in the middle was glowing with golden light. This definitely looked like a fairy magic. Her heart thumping, she flipped quickly the glowing page and opened the book, holding it out so that both she and Kirsty could see. It showed a picture of a very pretty fairy with wavy auburn hair. She wore an orange-red dress and sandals, and had a flower tucked in her hair. "Fun facts about Erin the firebird fairy," Rachel read aloud. Kirsty huddled closer to read. "Oh, wow," she said, laughing as she saw the list of facts about Erin. 1. She likes making people laugh. 2. She doesn't like it when Jack Frost and his goblins steal things from fairyland. And 3. Her favorite thing in the world is training firebirds to help spread humor throughout both of the human and fairy worlds. "Oh, look, there's a joke," Rachel said, pointing out to the bottom of the page. "Knock, knock. Who's there?" asked Kirsty. "Fairy," said Rachel. "Fairy who?" asked Kirsty. Rachel was just about to say that the punchline didn't seem to be printed, when they both heard a tinkling laugh, and a tiny voice finished the joke. "Very pleased to meet you." A jet of sparkles poured from the page, and Erin appeared right in front of their eyes. Erin fluttered her sparkly wings, grinning. "Hello," she said in her silvery voice. "How lovely to see you again. Tell me, do you know it gets bigger the more you take away from it?" "I don't know," Rachel replied with a smile. "Why does it get bigger the more you take away from it?" "Oh!" Erin replied, clapping her hands together. Kirsty and Rachel didn't laugh. They both understood the joke, but for some reason, they didn't find it very funny. Erin's smile turned to a frown. "Ah," she said, "I think Jiggles the firebird must be nearby, you know. He's very clever, but hasn't quite finished his training. Sometimes he zaps the humor out of the joke instead of singing it in. Jiggles is nearby," Kirsty told her. "Look, he's just over there on the rock." She pointed to where the firebird was perched behind the fairy's back. Erin spun around immediately. A broad grin crossed her face, and she opened her mouth to call to him. But just then, 2 boys from the camp rushed out from the undergrowth. Erin had to dart quickly out of sight behind a bush, and Jiggles flew away at the noise high up into the treetops. Hi, Tommy. Hi, Jason, Kirsty said, recognizing the boys. What are you up to? We've been given a list of butterflies to find, dark-haired Tommy replied, holding up a clipboard and gift book. We were hiding behind the bushes there and spotted a golden butterfly fluttering around you two. We think it's a clouded yellow, which is the last one on our list, Jason added, pushing his glasses up his nose as he spoke. Did you see which way it went? Uh-oh. Rachel felt alarmed as she realized that the boys must have seen Erin and mistaked her for a butterfly. Her mind went black with panic. What should she say to throw the boys off the scent? She began thinking wildly. Then she realized that she could actually tell the truth. I haven't seen a butterfly all day, she replied honestly. We've been too busy bird watching. Bird chasing, more like, Kirsty added. The boys fell about laughing, clutching at each other's helplessly. Jason almost dropped his camera. He was laughing so hard. Rachel and Kirsty exchanged surprised glances. Kirsty's comment hadn't been that funny. Jiggles must be at it again, Rachel whispered to Kirsty, but this time he said too much more into a joke. Just then, out of the corner of her eye, Kirsty spotted Erin waving at her from a distance. She watched, puzzled, as Erin hurled a ball of magical golden sparkles further along the bank of the stream, where it hovered in midair. Kirsty smiled as she realized what clever Erin was trying to do. Hey, I can see something golden over there, she said to the boys, pointing to the shimmering ball of glitter. Look! The boys stopped laughing and turned to follow where Kirsty was pointing. Erin seemed to be working some magic that was making the ball move along so that from a distance it did look rather like a butterfly. Look, cool! Thanks, Kirsty, Tommy said. Come on, Jason, let's go. The boys raced off towards the magical golden sparkles, and Erin fluttered out from her hiding place. Phew, she said. That was a close one. Humans must never find out about us fairies, or our fairy lair home. Apart from us, Rachel added. Erin smiled. Yes, apart from you too, of course. But you help us all the time, and we trust you. Other humans might not be as friendly. The fairy gazed up to where Jiggles had been perched in one of the trees. Oh, she said in dismay. Jiggles has flown away. I didn't see him go. Did either of you two? Kirsty shook her head. No, she said, and didn't dare look up at him while the boys were with us, in case they wondered what I was doing. She stared around hopefully at all the treetops, but there was no sign of the firebird's fairy feathers. Oh no, she groaned. Where could he be? We got to find him again, and quickly. The three friends set out along the edge of the stream in search of Jiggles. Rachel and Kirsty took turns with their binoculars, while Erin took out her own pair of tiny fairy binoculars to peer through. Wow, look, Rachel said, after they'd been walking for a few minutes. There are some other bird watchers over there, up in the tower. They're all dressed up in everything. She passed the binoculars to Kirsty so she could see. The tower was built of wood and was as tall as an oak tree surrounding it. At the top of the tower was a viewing platform where 4 bird watchers stood. They were all dressed in camouflage patterned clothes so that they blended into the trees. The bird watchers also wore wide green hats, and each had a pair of binoculars that they were peering through. Wow, they're taking it very seriously, Kirsty commented. They've even painted their faces green too, so they matched their leaves. She looked up at them again and noticed that one of the bird watchers was now jumping up and down excitedly, pointing at something upstream. His friends all turned and looked. And then they began to jump up and down too. Then, as one of them jumped extra high, his hat fell off, and Kirsty gasped as she got a proper look at his face. Rachel! Erin! She hissed as she saw what a long green nose the hatless bird watcher had. They aren't bird watchers with painted faces, they're goblins! Erin let out a little squeak of alarm. And why are they so excited? She wondered, turning her binoculars in the direction that the goblins had been pointing. Then she took a sharp intake of breath. Oh, I know why, she exclaimed. They've seen Jiggles. He's perched on a log about 20 meters past the viewing tower. We got to go to find him first, Rachel said at once. Look, that goblin is carrying a net. We just can't let them catch poor Jiggles. Come on, Kirsty said, and she and Rachel began running around the stream, with Erin flying above their heads. The goblins, meanwhile, were all pushing and shoving each other in their haste to get down the steps of the wooden tower. As the girls came nearer, the goblins pelted down the last few steps and shot off ahead, one with a net clasped in his hand. "We won't be able to catch up with them on foot," Rachel panted. "Erin, can you turn us into fairies? We'll be able to go much faster if we can fly." "Of course," Erin replied, and quickly waved her wand over the girls. A stream of orange fairy dust floated out from her wand's tip and swirled all around Kirsty and Rachel. As magic sparkles touched them, the girls felt themselves shrinking smaller and smaller until they were the same size as Erin. Now they each had a pair of gauzy wings, and with a few quick flutters, Rachel and Kirsty had zoomed up into the air to join their friend. "After them!" cried Kirsty excitedly, flapping her wings as hard as she could. She, Erin, and Rachel all zoomed through the air, taking care to fly high so that the goblins wouldn't notice them. "It's very difficult flying so quickly through the trees," Rachel thought, swerving past a pine tree and taking care not to snug her wings on its dark green nettles. It was like a fairy obstacle course, zipping over and under branches, dodging the tree trunks, and having to dive out of the way of birds and butterflies that were flying through the wood. Down below, the goblins were all running along at great speed, and there far ahead was Jiggles, sitting on the log and preening his long-tailed feathers. "Watch out, Rachel!" Erin suddenly called, and Rachel jerked her attention back to where she was going, to see a song thrush was headed straight for her. With a cry of alarm, Rachel just managed to swerve out of the way at the last second, and the thrush passed safely by. Rachel's wings trembled with shock at the near miss. If the thrush's sharp beak had accidentally caught on one of her wings, it would have been a disaster. "Are you all right?" Kirsty called over, winking a glance across at her friend. Rachel nodded, concentrating so hard on where she was flying she didn't dare speak. "We're nearly there," Erin said. "Jiggles is just below us." "Oh no!" Kirsty and Rachel glanced down, wondering why Erin had cried out, just in time to see one of the goblins throwing his net over Jiggles. The firebird was trapped! Rachel felt dismayed. This was awful news. "Gotcha!" She heard one of the mean goblins cheering from below and felt sick at the thought of beautiful Jiggles being caught by one of them. "We need a plan," Gertie said, flying to perch on a nearby branch and gesturing to the others to follow her. "At least the goblins don't know we're here. If we're quick, we can think of some way to trick them and get Jiggles back." The three fairies peered down at the goblins, who were all congratulating each other on a job well done. "Brilliant work, mate," one of them said to the goblins with the net, slapping him on the back. "You're so quick and so sneaky." The goblins were doing high fives and looking really pleased with themselves. "Jack Frost is going to be so happy," one said. "He might even smile. Imagine that." The mention of smiling reminded Rachel of earlier, when she and Kirsty had been smiling and giggling at jokes. Then she remembered how they'd been absolutely helpless with laughter at one point, and an idea popped into her head. "I got it!" she said it to Erin and Kirsty, her eyes shining. "What if we can make the goblins laugh? Really laugh. I mean, like we were laughing, Kirsty. With Jiggles nearby to strengthen their humor, we can tell them some jokes and hopefully they'll all be rolling about in no time. And then, with a bit of luck, we'll be able to rescue Jiggles from the net." "I love it!" Kirsty exclaimed. "Great idea, Rachel." Erin didn't look quite so sure. "It's a good idea, but we'll have to hope that Jiggles' magic is working properly," she said. "You saw what happened earlier when he zapped the humor out of my joke. He killed it stone dead, and you two didn't even smile. If the same thing happens again, any joke you tell the goblins will fall flat, and they won't laugh. Even worse, it will make them really suspicious of you." "I see what you mean," Rachel said, "but I still think we should try. I can't think of any other ideas to help Jiggles escape. Can you two?" Kirsty shook her head. "It's definitely worth a try," Erin said. Let's fly down lower behind those bushes and I'll turn you back into girls. Then I'll just have to cross my fingers and hope that Jiggles can pull it off. The three fairies fluttered down behind some brambles where the goblins wouldn't be able to see them. And Erin waved her wand again, and Kirsty and Rachel chanting some magic words as she did so. With another swirl of fairy dust, Kirsty and Rachel felt their wings vanish as they grew back to their normal size. Two girls came out from behind the brambles and approached the goblins. The goblins didn't look at all pleased to see them, and one of them held up a warning hand. "Stop there," he said. "Keep your distance. We've got the firebird and there's nothing you can do about it now." Rachel shrugged as if she wasn't really interested. "All right," she said coolly. "We just came over to tell you a funny joke, actually. We thought you might like a laugh after all your hard work." She could see the goblins were about to disagree, so she plowed straight on with it. "What does Jack Frost like to eat for breakfast?" The goblins looked at each other and shrugged. "I don't know," one replied. "Frosties!" Rachel cried, grinning. Kirsty watched the goblins' faces eagerly, hoping they would find Rachel's joke funny. Unfortunately, though, they didn't even smile. "I don't get it," one of the goblins muttered, looking confused. "Jack Frost doesn't even eat breakfast," another said scornfully. Kirsty and Rachel exchanged worried glances. Oh dear, Jiggle's magic wasn't working very well at all. They had to make the goblins fall about laughing if they were to stand a chance of rescuing the firebird, but at this rate, that was never going to happen. Kirsty tried next. "How about this one? What do you get if you cross Jack Frost with a vampire?" she asked. "Frostbite!" This time the goblins smiled. One of them even chuckled. "Frostbite! I like that," he said. Feeling encouraged, Rachel gave them another one. "How does Jack Frost travel to work?" she asked. "By icicle." Yes, the goblins all burst out laughing. "Not bicycle, icicle," one of them chose, shaking with laughter. Kirsty grinned at Rachel. The plan was working. "What did Jack Frost say to Frosty the snowman?" she asked them. "Have an ice day." "Have an ice day," one of the goblins repeated, clutching his middle and goofing. "How do you keep a goblin in suspense?" Rachel asked them next. "We don't know," the goblins spluttered in reply. "We'll tell you tomorrow." Rachel and Kirsty chorused. At this, the goblins all fell over with laughter. They were rolling around on the ground, shoulders shaking, tears of mirth streaming down their cheeks. "I get it," one chuckled. "We're goblins and they're keeping us in suspense." "Hilarious!" another gasped, thumping the ground as he chortled. Kirsty and Rachel looked at each other, then at the goblin's net, which was on the ground with Jiggles trapped inside. The goblins were still helpless with laughter. "Now!" Kirsty hissed. Without any further hesitation, the girls ran up to the net and lifted it up. Erin flew over to them, her arms outstretched. "Jiggles, I'm here!" she called. Jiggles blinked, shook out his feathers, and then gave a happy laugh as he saw his fairy mistress. He flapped his shimmering wings and fell out of the net and up into the air towards Erin, shrinking down to fairy size as he went. Jiggles looked so sweet as he flew into Erin's arms. He nestled his head on her shoulder and let out peals of melody jiggles. "Hello, sweetie," Erin said, stroking him gently. Then she laughed too. "Oh, it's so good to have you back again." The goblins, meanwhile, were still rolling about with laughter, and Jiggles let out an amused chirrup as the tears ran down their green cheeks. "We'd better leave them to it," Erin said to Kirsty, and then Rachel in a low voice. "Once they realize they don't have the firebird anymore, they'll have to go back to Fairyland and tell Jack Frost. They won't find that quite so funny, unfortunately." "Goodbye, Erin." "Goodbye, Jiggles," Rachel said, patting the little bird's downy feathers. "Thanks for all the laughs. Yes, that was the funniest adventure we've had for a long time." Kirsty smiled. "Goodbye." Erin waved a smile as she and Jiggles flew off in a shower of sparkles. Rachel and Kirsty watched until the last magical sparkle had vanished, then turned to one another. "We'd better go back to camp," Kirsty said. "I'm so glad we helped Erin with find Jiggles, but it's a shame we didn't manage to spot all the birds on our list." The two girls took a few steps away from the goblins, and then Rachel froze, clutching Kirsty's arm. Tee, 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 they heard. Kirsty grinned in delight as she spotted a small yellow and blue bird on the branch of a nearby tree. A blue tit, she whispered, fumbling to switch on the camera. She held it out and then pressed the button. Click! She and Rachel watched the blue tit as it hopped along the branch, then fluttered away. We did it! Rachel cheered, ticking it off on her list. Hooray! I can't wait to tell everyone about the birds we saw. Kirsty grinned and slipped an arm through Rachel's as they headed back towards the camp. Me too, she said, but we won't tell them about all the birds we saw. Spero che vă placă povestea aceasta. Dacă vreți să vedeți mai multe povești, vă rog să dați un like și un subscribe. La revedere!